This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are in day 10 session. Yesterday, we had a discussion on top of polymorphism, uh, and we got a chance to discuss about what compile time polymorphism and as well as what runtime polymorphism. What do you mean by method overloading? Okay, what do you mean by method overriding? All these things and different scenarios we have already seen practically also. So this was the concept which we have seen in my yesterday's session. Now in today's session we are going to discuss about abstraction. Okay, so one by one object oriented programming principles I am discussing. So in the first day we had a discussion on top of inheritance. In the second day we had a discussion on top of polymorphism, and in the third day we will try to understand what do you mean by abstraction. So what do you mean by abstraction? Abstraction is the one of the is one of the is one of the object oriented programming principle. Okay, so what do you mean by abstraction? Yes, it is one of the object oriented programming principles, I agree, but what exactly it is saying? So abstraction is saying something like uh, it is a process of something like hiding unnecessary details. Okay, it is a process of we don't require unnecessary details. It is the process of, or else it is the process of highlighting highlighting the services, highlighting the services which are offered by the vendor, which are offered by the company. Okay, so and we are by ignoring or else by hiding implementation details, by hiding implementation details. This is what exactly abstraction is saying. Yes, you may ask one question, what do you mean by highlighting the services? Okay, what do you mean by hiding the implementation details? For example, okay, in your career, definitely you may get a chance to withdraw the money using your ATM card. Okay, when you enter into your ATM center, you are going to like what insert your ATM card. Okay, then you are going to like what enter the pin, and after that you are going to withdraw the money. So these are the different phases which we are, these are the different actions which we are going to perform inside the ATM, inside the ATM center. But you know what exactly your focus, whether you are getting the money or not, whatever the amount you are entering, that amount you are getting or not, that is only the focus. We are not focusing on how this is going to be happening when you are entering the pin. It is hitting which server, okay, what kind of algorithms they are using. On top of these things we are focusing, or else those kind of things are revealed in the ATM center to the end users who are using this ATM machine? No, because they are just hiding how they have implemented. See, right now we are just sending the message, sending the WhatsApp message. So what exactly our target, whether this message is going to be delivered or not? Okay, so we are not focusing on how this message is going to be delivered from my mobile number to my friend mobile number, what kind of algorithms they are using, what kind of data structures they are using. Do we think really something like that? We no need to think, because of it is our abstraction is saying, hiding the implementation details, how they have implemented that particular service, that will be hidden. But what we are getting, service only. WhatsApp is the company, WhatsApp is the product. Using that product we are able to send the message, we are able to communicate with each other. Our focus is only whether this message is going to be delivered or not. That is the service. Only we are focusing on the service. Whatever the services they are offering, am I getting or not? That is only your intention, that is only your goal. Our goal is not something like how they have implemented. Of course they are hiding those logic details, they're hiding their implementation details. Why? Because obviously if they hide their implementation details using this abstraction, what kind of advantage you are getting? Obviously security, isn't it, right? So the major advantage of abstraction is what? Security. Because of they are hiding their implementation details and how they have implemented, what kind of logic is it is to implement this service, what kind of logic they are using. We are hiding that implementation or logic details. Because of that, obviously we are getting the security as the benefit. Not only security, enhancements. Enhancements means what? Enhancements means what? If you wanted to make any changes in the existing code, it is very easy, because whether you are observing or not, okay, here you just observe here. You just observe here. Here it is a Java software. Here it is a .NET software, assume. So in between, here we have one interface is there. Inside this interface, we have different buttons are there. We have different buttons are there. For example, I'm an end user. Okay, whenever I'm clicking on this particular withdrawal button, okay, withdrawal button, it is trying to like what communicating with the .NET server. Assume here it is a Java machine, something like it is a Java machine, and assume here it is a .NET machine. Machine means what? Different products are there. We have different products are there. For example, if you are using SBI ATM card, SBI software got implemented on top of the Java, but you are using ICICI ATM machine. Okay, this is the ICICI ATM machine, assume. Obviously, ICICI software got implemented on top of the .NET. Whenever you clicked on the withdraw by inserting the SBI ATM, it is trying to communicating with the .NET, because of that got implemented using .NET software. So ultimately, what I wanted to tell you here, whenever you clicked on the withdrawal, from here, okay, from here to here, the communication is going to be happening, and accordingly we are getting the amount returned back to here itself. Okay, but now we don't know, we are just clicking on the withdrawal button or transfer button or something like checking the balance. All this is the user interface. Whatever the end user is seeing, that is what we call it as what? It is the user interface. We don't know what kind of logic. Whenever I clicked on the withdrawal button, it is calling which method. We don't know what exactly. When you clicked on the send button, the message is going to be delivered, but you don't know like internally which method will be invoked. That is also happening here also. But now, if you wanted to like what make any other services or add any other services, add the same service. Okay, add the same service, or else change the service. I mean, change the user interface. We no need to like what change the existing Java code or existing .NET code. Only just by changing the user interface, automatically the functionalities will be work out. So meaning that enhancements will become very easy. If you wanted to like what add anything to the existing code, easily we can do. That is what exactly we can call it as what? Enhancements. Adding something to the existing code. Okay, so abstraction is also providing you the ability to like what perform the enhancements also very easily. And modularity means what? The separation easily. Maintenance, obviously maintenance will be very easy. So all these are the different advantages of abstraction itself. So if anybody is asking what do you mean by abstraction, you please tell like this: abstraction is one of the object oriented programming principle. Here it is saying highlighting the services which are offered by them by hiding the internal details, by hiding the implementation details. We are not focusing on how they have implemented. We are focusing on whether the services which are offered by them, am I getting or not? That is only your focus. So using abstraction, the main advantage we are getting is what? Security. Because of we don't know how exactly they have implemented that logic. So that is what exactly the meaning of abstraction. So now abstraction we are achieving by using two concepts. One is by using abstract class, another one is interface. Okay, we are achieving this abstraction by using two concepts. One is abstract class, another one is interface. Okay, so using abstract class, we are able to like what achieve the concept. Partially we are able to achieve the abstraction, partial abstraction. Why? Because you will get to know. So first we will see regarding about abstract class. Now for time being we'll see what do you mean by interface also. So here, what do you mean by abstract class? Here abstract class means what? Partial implementation class. Partial implementation class. Another name of abstract class is known as what? Partial implementation class. So far in Java we have two types of classes are there. Two types of classes are there. Okay, with respect to the context which I am speaking, I'm talking. Okay, in Java we have two types of classes are there. One is concrete class or implementation class. Implementation class. Okay, another one is what? Of course, abstract class. This is what? Partial implementation class. So, okay, fully undefined. Here, implementation class, another name is what? Fully defined class. Okay, so this is what? Undefined class. Like this also you can remember easily. So far, whatever the classes we have seen, all these are the fully defined classes. If you see any class, whatever the methods you are defining here, all these methods are defined methods. All these methods are what? Defined method. For example, if I'm opening test one, so test one, some method is there. You open it and then close it and then you provide the logic. Okay, open the test two. Okay, here also main method you define it. Okay, under com dot here child.java. See here operation is the method. You define something. Okay, open the test3.java. You define something. So far whatever the classes we defined, each and everything is defined. Fully defined class it is. It is a fully defined class. Okay, what do you mean by fully defined class? Okay, what do you mean by fully defined class or concrete class? Here I am defining. Concrete class is a class which contains only defined methods. Defined methods. What do you mean by defined methods? A method, defined method meaning is what? Method, it is also a method. It is a method. Come on, please. Defined method. It is a method which contains method head, method heading, and as well as what? Method body. Meaning that method name, method declaration, and as well as what? Method body, where you are writing the logic. So that is what exactly we can call it as what? Defined method. Or you can also call it as what? Concrete method, implemented method, all these things. So when it comes to like what? Abstract class. Okay, it is a class which contains both defined methods, okay, defined methods, and as well as undefined methods also. Undefined methods also. It is a combination of both defined methods and as well as what? Undefined methods. So such kind of classes are known as abstract classes. Such kind of classes are known as abstract classes. Partially implemented class. For example, take this class test1. Inside my class test1, I have assumed two methods are there. Void m1. Okay, void m1 system.out.println of something. I have some logic is there, assume. This is the defined method. And one more method is there, assume void m2. But I am not defining anything. I am just declaring the method like this. So now tell me, inside my class test1, how many methods are there right now? Just for example, I am telling. Inside my class test1, how many methods are there right now? One is m1, another one is m2. So totally two methods are there. What kind of method? M1 is what kind of method? It is the concrete method. Why? Because it has method heading and as well as what? Method body. What do you mean by method body? Which is in between open curly and then closed curly. That is the method body. So what do you mean by this? What do you mean by m2 method? This is an abstract method or else undefined method. So like this. Okay, so this abstract method is a method which contains only method heading, which contains only method declaration. There is no method body. Which contains only method declaration. There is no method body. That is the concept of what? Abstract method. That is the concept of what? Abstract method itself. So whenever you are defining just a method heading, this is an abstract method. As a human being, we can understand, but Java compiler cannot understand, cannot be identified. Yes, this is an abstract method. To identified by the Java compiler, we have to add one extra Java reserved keyword, that is what? Abstract. So whenever my class contains at least one abstract method, automatically my class also will become abstract class. Automatically my class also will become abstract class by adding the abstract keyword explicitly like this. So I hope you understand. So what do you mean by abstract class? So abstract class is a class which contains both defined methods and as well as what? Undefined methods. Here undefined method is what? M2 or M1? M2 is the undefined method or abstract method. How can you represent a method as an abstract method? By adding the abstract keyword. Whenever if a class contains at least one abstract method, my class also will become abstract class by adding the abstract keyword in front of the class declaration. So note point is what? Note point is what? To make a normal method as an abstract method. As an abstract method, we have to use abstract as the Java abstract keyword. Okay, explicitly. We have to use abstract keyword explicitly. So if a class contains at least one abstract method, the corresponding class also will become, come on please, the corresponding class also, okay, will become as abstract class like above itself. So that is what we need to understand. And one more point I wanted to tell you. Yes, here my test1 class is what? Here my test1 class is what? My test1 class is normal concrete class or fully defined class or abstract class. Obviously it is a abstract class, just now you know. So for this I wanted to create the object. Yes, so my question is am I able to are we able to, come on please, are we able to create the object for abstract class or not? Come on please, are we able to create the object for abstract class or not? This is the question. If this is the question, answer is no. So why? Because for example, you know already my class abstract class is the test1, right? So here test1, come on please, test1 obj equals to new test1. Assume if it is possible, assume it is possible. For example, I am calling obj.m1. Perfectly it is valid. Control goes to the m1 method and this SOP will be executed and then m1 will be printed. That's not a problem. But using this instance, if I am calling the m2 method, what is the output you are getting? So inside the m2, do we have any logic? Did you provide any logic? If there is any body for the m2? No, right? So that is the reason. Since inside the abstract class, we may have undefined method. That is the reason at design level only they are restricting this kind of, they are restricting to create the object for my abstract class. That is the reason my answer is what? No. So we are not allowed to create the object for an abstract class. This is what we need to understand. Why? What happened when you create the object at an abstract class? Just now I showed you. Okay, this is what we need to understand. So let me make you understand with the same example. I'm just okay, since we are working on the abstractions under SRC, try to right click here, new, take the package com dot, come on please, com dot jsc dot abstraction. This is the way to give the correct package name. Under this package name, give the class name as the test1. Give the class name as what? Test1. Here define the public, come on please, public void m1 or else sum int x comma, any method you can define, not only m1 or m2, any method you can define as per the requirement. System.out.println of sum of plus x plus y. This is the sum method we defined. This is the method definition. Okay, defined method, I can say defined method. So inside the same test1 class, I do have one more method, that is sub method int x comma int y. But right now my sub method is the defined method or undefined method? Come on please. My sub method is the defined method or undefined method? There is no body, only method heading is there. That is the reason this method is the undefined method. How can you represent this method as an undefined method? By adding the keyword as abstract, public abstract keyword. So right now my test1 class is giving you the error. Why? Because in my test1 class I have one defined method, I have one abstract method. If a class contains at least one abstract method, automatically the corresponding class also will become abstract class. But you have to add the abstract keyword explicitly, then only this error is gone. Otherwise it will give you what? Compile time error. Otherwise it will give you what? Compile time error. The moment I am adding this abstract keyword, that error is gone. If you are removing, immediately we are getting the error saying that the type test1 must be an abstract class to define abstract methods. So that is the reason we have to add the abstract keyword if a class contains at least one abstract method or one undefined method. Abstract method or undefined method. Okay, so as you already aware, we can't create the object for the test1. So then what is the use of this? Usually we are going to like what? Okay, declare the methods if it is a common for all the objects. Usually just like that, we are not declaring the method like this. We are not making the method as an abstract method. For example, while you are working on the banking application, withdraw is the method, or else get rate of interest is the method. So you see, get rate of interest is the common, get rate of interest is the method, is the common method for all the banks. ICICI Bank will provide the get rate of interest, SBI, Citibank, Punjab National Bank, any other banks, common method is what? Get rate of interest. So instead of giving you the logic, instead of defining the logic, you just make that particular method as an abstract method, and whoever wanted to provide the logic for that for the get rate of interest method, take that method and accordingly they will implement. I will show you this use case with respect to interfaces, but ultimately my point is here, what kind of methods you are going to make as an abstract method? This is the question. Okay, what kind of methods? If a method is going to be common, for all the implementation classes, okay, then it is highly recommended, because if it is a common, okay, for each and every implementation class there is a different logic. Okay, if a method is going to be common, obviously get rate of interest is not common for each and every bank. ICICI Bank is providing one rate of interest, SBI Bank is providing one rate of interest, different logics are there. So how can you provide the different logics? By using the same method name, obviously by using method overriding, of course. So meaning that if a method is going to be common, that means logic is not going to be common. Logic is going to be different from each and every implementation class. Logic is going to be different, but method name is going to be, come on please, method name is common, but logic is different. Okay, from one class to, or else from one implementation class to another implementation class. This is what you need to understand. Very, very important. You go anywhere, you go Spring Boot anywhere, okay, while you are developing the real world applications, this is only the thing is happening. Method name is common, but logic is different from one implementation class to another implementation class. If this kind of scenario, if this is the scenario, definitely it is highly recommended to make that method as, abstract method, because directly we are not providing the logic. How can you provide the logic directly like this? Because of logic is not going to be common from one class to another class. If that is the case, how can you provide the static logic? If you're providing the static logic, that is not at all work out. So that is the reason we want to provide, we no need to provide the logic. We are just declaring the specification, and that specification can be implemented by a number of implementation classes based on the requirement. Yes, you may not understand the the terms which I'm using, but definitely you are going to memorize once you will get the clarity for the future sessions, and even when you get the project, obviously you will be memorized whatever I'm going to speak. But the only thing is you need to understand and then remember is, just like that we are not making the method as an abstract. If the method is going to be common and logic is going to be different from one implementation class to another implementation class, then it is highly recommended to make that method as an abstract instead of defining the method. That is what you need to understand. Okay, sir, now you may ask one question, sir, whatever the method you are declaring, who needs to provide the logic? Yes, Java programmers only supposed to provide. For example, test1 is the abstract class, so that you can't create the object. Now, but I, as a Java programmer, I supposed to provide the logic. Already for the sum method, logic was there. We don't have any issue with the sum method. But I wanted to provide the logic for the sub method. Where should we provide the logic? Inside the another class. And that another class is known as what? Implementation class. So how can you provide the logic for the sub method? Definitely this property is supposed to be inherited from here to there. So that is the reason you are going to define one more class. So that class new, take the class and make it as a test2. And for this test2, who is acting as a super class now? So generally for every class, object class is the super class. But right now For my test2 class, I wanted to make my test1 as the super class. That is the reason. Click on the browse and type the test1. Okay, type the test1, and so many test1s are there, but we need com.jsc.abstraction test1. So if you click on this and then click on the finish, so automatically, since my test1 class contains this sub method as an abstract method, so it is asking me to provide the logic for the sub method. Okay, so system.out.println of, okay, subtraction. Here I am providing the logic, sir. Here I am providing the logic. Same, save it, sir. So in this way, I am defining the child class. So this will become the child class come implementation class. For which class it is acting as an implementation class? Test1 class is the abstract class, meaning that it is the abstract class, meaning is what? Undefined class. So that undefinedness you are making as the defined thing by using this test2 class, just by providing the logic. So obviously my test2 class will become as the child class or implementation class for my abstract class. If there is an abstract class, definitely implementation class supposed to be there whenever you are providing the logic for that abstract method. For example, if you are not providing the logic, okay, if you are not providing the logic for that abstract method, immediately we are getting the error, because whenever you are using extends test1, those two methods will be inherited, na? So sum is already defined, that's not a problem, but sub is also available logically as an abstract method. If the method is available logically as an abstract method, this class is also will become abstract class. So what it is expecting, compiler is expecting abstract keyword, then the error is gone. If you are providing the logic, that's fine, but if you are not providing the logic, it is expecting the abstract keyword. If you are providing the logic, that's fine. Right now, test2 contains how many methods? One is sum method, available logically as a defined method, and sub method you are defining right now. Okay, now if you want to make this, if you want to define the main method here, yes, you can define. Otherwise, if you want to take the any implement execution logic class separately, that is also fine, it's up to you. Okay, now I'm making this one only as the main method. So now I'm going to create the object for the test1. Test1 obj equals to new test1, because of both are belongs to same package. So immediately we are getting the error. What is this error? Because of test1 is the abstract class, so you cannot instantiate the type test1. Even though you are trying to create the object, it is giving you the error. So that is the reason I am creating the object for test2 equals to new test2. Okay, what is this? Tell me. Test2 obj equals to new test2. So on top of this object, obj dot sum 3, 4, obj dot sub of 4, 3. Save it, and when you try to run this, you will get the sum and as well as what a subtraction. So in this way, we are going to define the define the abstract classes. Okay, and we are going to provide the implementation classes like this. Test1.java. Okay, control V. So, and after that, test2.java. Here, test2.java is acting as a child class, come implementation class, come execution logic class also. Why? Because which class you are saying as an execution logic class? In which class there is a main method, that class is also known as execution logic class, because Java execution starts from main method only. Okay, so that is the reason I am providing. Right, you may ask one question, sir. You said in case of abstract method name is common, but logic is going to be different from one implementation to another implementation. Sir, for this test2 is one of the implementation class. Test2 is not only the implementation class for test1. Test2 is one of the implementation class. So as per the test2 requirement, they are providing the logic as x minus y. If you want to provide the logic, some other logic for the same sub method, define some other implementation class. Who is stopping you? Define the class and make it as what test3, and again it is coming from the test1, which is coming from this abstraction. Take it and then finish, and then give some other logic. Okay, system.out.println of here multiplication excuse me, plus of x into y. So my test2 sub method is giving you the subtraction, but my test3 sub method is giving you the multiplication. So method name is same, but logic is going to be different. Okay, in that way we are able to like what provide. Yes, you can define the main method. You can define the main method, sir. You can define the main method and creating the object of test1 obj equals to new test1. It is not possible, as you know already. But you can create the child class object and you can store it into the parent class reference variable. Yesterday's knowledge, polymorphism, runtime binding, dynamic binding, runtime polymorphism. We are creating the child class object and we can store it into the parent class reference variable. This is also fine. So now obj dot sub method 4 comma 3. So now are we getting the subtraction or are we getting the multiplication? Are we getting the subtraction or are we getting the multiplication? First of all, you just observe here, test3 extends test1. So that means inside the when I try to run this, you are getting what? Multiplication. Because inside the test1 right now, my inside the test1 sub method is there or not there? Come on, please. I am trying to explain this test3 I mean 13th line. So what do you mean by this test1 obj equals to, here you just observe here what is happening. I am trying to explain the yesterday's concept. So test1 obj, this 13th line is available by the compile time only, because of it is just an after all variable declaration. And obviously object is always created by the JVM, and that too that is happening at runtime. Okay, so this 14th line is not available at the compilation time. So obj is of test1 type and you call the sub method. So then control goes to the test1 method, and inside the test1 sub method is there or not there? There or not there? Please come on, tell me. Sub method is there or not there? Yes, it is there. So that is the reason I am not getting any compile time error. I am not getting any compile time error. But which class sub method will be executed? Test2 class or test3 class? So which class object you have created? Test3 class. So that is the reason control comes to the test3 class, and this sub method, overriding method, will be executed, and this will be executed. So based on which object you created, based on the object type, that method resolution is going to be happening. This is the concept of runtime polymorphism. This is the concept of what? Runtime polymorphism. Method resolution can be found or can be decided based on the object type, not based on the reference variable. For example, instead of test3, if I'm using test2, obviously what kind of logic you are getting? You are getting subtraction. If I'm changing from test2 to test3, obviously we are getting multiplication. So that means method resolution is going to be decided based on the object type, not based on the reference variable. That is happening with respect to method overloading. Okay, that is the compile time polymorphism. But we are talking about what? Runtime polymorphism. So like this, for a single abstract class, as many as implementation classes you can define like this. As many implementation classes as you want, you can define like this. Okay, so this is basic information regarding about what? Abstract class. So as usual, I'm going to like what take the test3 also, so that you will get the clarity. Test1 is already there. Test1 is already there, right? Okay. Let me control C. I think okay. So it's supposed to take 1 second. 1 second now. This is an abstraction sub method. Okay, test1, test2 already there. Now I supposed to like what? test3.java. That's fine. Come back to here, test3. test3.java. Okay, now finally I have one question with respect to abstract class. Finally I have one question with respect to abstract class. Can we define constructors? Okay, can we define constructor inside an abstract class? Can we define constructor and abstract class? Why I am asking this question? There is a reason. Because constructors always executed whenever you create the object. But if you define the constructor if you define the constructor inside an abstract class, for an abstract class you can't create the object. If you can't create the object, then how constructor will be executed? Okay, this is my question. You can't define the constructor. I mean, if you define the constructor inside an abstract class, since you are not able to create the object for an abstract class, then if that is the case, constructor, how constructors are going to be executed? That is only my question. That is the reason I'm asking. Can we define or not? Yes or no? Okay, let's see programmatically so that you will get the clarity. Let's see programmatically, you will get the clarity. As we have already, my test one is there. This is an abstract class. Okay, so how can you define the constructor? As you know, constructor name always must be similar to class name. Okay, system.out.println of constructor. Okay, save it. So simply one SOP message I am writing. So this is the constructor I am defining inside my abstract class. Okay, come to test2 or test3, whatever it is. For example, if I'm coming to like what test2, you created an object of test2 obj equals to new test2. Inside the test2, okay, inside the test2, meaning that you are creating an object of test2 by using default constructor. So if there is no default constructor, Java compiler will create this. Okay, that will be added by the Java compiler. This point I have already told you in the constructors concept. Whether you are defining or not, if you are defining, that's fine, it will use the existing one. If you are not defining the default constructor, Java compiler will generate that system defined default constructor and it will be added. Okay, and you know, for each and every constructor, okay, for each and every constructor, this one is going to be added. What is the meaning of this? Tell me. What is the meaning of this? Tell me. Super of open parenthesis and then closure parenthesis. What is the meaning of this? You know, it is trying to invoke the immediate parent class default constructor. Test2 extends test1. So what is the super class for this test2? Test1. So then control goes to the test1, that is your abstract class. Control comes to here in the default constructor and this will be executed. So let's see whether it is really happening or not. Simply I'm just removing this. Okay, save it. Whatever the code I'm writing, I'm not writing. We no need to write. Even though if you are not writing, that code will be automatically generated by the Java compiler. So simply getting the output is not giving you. See here, constructor is going to be invoked or not, sir? So even though we are not able to create the object for the test1, we are not able to create the object for the test1 since it is the abstract class, but still we are able to execute the abstract class constructors since for each and every constructor, Java compiler is adding that super statement. So that super statement is used to invoke the super class constructors. So that is the reason from the test2 implementation class, control goes to this okay, abstract class constructor and that logic is getting executed. I hope you got the clarity itself. Okay, so in the same manner here, so simply I am just adding this so that you will get the clarity. There is no separate example is required, not required. So here we are just adding like this. We are just adding control S. That's it. So ultimately answer is what? Can we define the constructor inside an abstract class? Yes, we can define. Okay, how those are going to be executed? Because for every constructor, super statement is added by the Java compiler, which in turns calls, okay, parent class, okay, or parent class constructors. So that is the reason in my case, my parent class is an abstract class. That is the reason it is invoking the abstract class constructor and that logic is going to be executed. So in that way, this is also one of the important interview based question. Can we define? They are asking simply since we are not creating the object for an abstract class. We can't, it is not possible. Then in that case, how the constructors are going to be executed? That is only the question. But this is the story behind this. Since for every constructor, super statement is going to be added by the Java compiler implicitly. Okay, implicitly or internally, even though if you are not adding. Okay, that is why from the implementation class or child class, it will go to the abstract class constructor and that logic is going to be executed and coming back to the implementation class and it continues to execute. Okay, this is how exactly with respect to abstract class it is going to be happening. And one more point I wanted to add after this. For example, in my abstract class, Come on, please. In my test one, how many methods are there? 2 methods are there. One is sum method, another one is sub method. Okay, now one more method I am defining, public abstract void, okay, division method, int x comma int y. So totally, whenever I am declaring like this, totally my test one class of test one class method, test one class contains how many methods? One is the defined method, two are the abstract method. If a class contains at least one abstract method, obviously my class also is what? Abstract class. So now definitely I have to provide the logics for sub method and then division method in their implementation classes like test2 and test3. As and when you declare this method, immediately we are getting the errors in the test2 and then test3, whether you are observing or not. Why? Because right now my test2 does not have the body for the division method. My test3 does not have the body for the division method. That is the reason I am getting those errors, 2 errors. If I click on this test2, immediately when you keep the cursor, see here, the type test2 must implement the inherited abstract method test1.division. So my point is, okay, if you really wanted to provide the logic, okay, for an, or else if you wanted to provide the implementation, sorry, if you wanted to define the implementation class, if you wanted to define the implementation class for an abstract class, you have to provide the logic for all the abstract methods. If you are not providing the logic for at least one abstract method, okay, if you are not providing the logic for at least one abstract method, that corresponding implementation class also will become what? Abstract class. Why you are making right now, why you are making this class test2 as the abstract class? Because you did not provide the logic for what? Division method. That is the reason you have to make this. Otherwise you have to provide the logic for each and every abstract method. So final conclusion is what? Here I'm keeping it in the comment. My final conclusion is what? Okay, note point here I'm writing. If we want to provide the implementation, or else not provide, if we want to define the implementation class for any abstract class, okay, we have to provide the logics. We have to provide the logic for all the abstract methods. If you're not providing the logic for at least one abstract method, okay, then the implementation class also will become an abstract class. I have shown you also. This is what we need to understand. So this is all about what? Abstract classes and then different scenarios. Okay. So partial abstraction, we are able to achieve the partial abstraction. Why? Because my abstract class is not only the my abstract class does not have only abstract methods. My abstract class is the combination of both the defined methods and as well as what? Undefined methods. If there is a defined method, obviously that logic is available, that logic is visible. Okay, that is the reason okay, using abstract class we are able to achieve the partial abstraction, not 100%. Okay, but if you go to interface, okay, 100% we are able to achieve fully abstraction, total 100% abstraction, or providing the security 100% we are able to achieve by using interface concepts. Why? Because of interface is a combination of only abstract methods. Interface is a only combination of only abstract methods. There is no point of having defined methods inside the interface. So how we will define the interface? What are the different ways? One real-time uses, I mean the use case also we'll try to see with respect to interface concepts. Okay, so I hope you got the clarity regarding all these abstract classes. Okay, so that's all about my today's session. Thank you.